Mom, have you seen Boulder anywhere?
Maud's toneless voice echoed in the ears of Cloudy Quartz, causing her to freeze in the middle of washing the dishes from dinner. Sweat dripped down the side of her face as her mind quickly sought to think of an answer. Her heart began to pound in her chest as she gave her answer.
No, dear. Not since he told me he would be waiting where you left him.
There was a silence as Maud stood behind her mom. Cloudy Quartz's heart sped up, her anxiety building. The silence seemed unbearable, until finally, the emotionless voice of her daughter could be heard once more.
Oh, that's right. I forgot I left him there. Thanks, Mom.
As the hoofsteps behind her signaled Maud's leave, the old matriarch of the Pie family breathed a sigh of relief as her heart rate returned to normal. Continuing the washing of the dishes, her mind unwillingly brought back memories of Maud's accident. Specifically, what happened during her hospital visit.
Doctor, how is she?
It had been 12 days since the accident that had almost cost Maud her life. Cloudy Quartz and the rest of the Pie family had been grieving over the potentially life-threatening surgery Maud would have to undergo to reconstruct her skeleton and repair her severed nervous system. It had been brutal. Standing before her unconscious daughter day after day, she had been non-responsive, paralyzed. That day, however, the Pies received a letter by post, urgently requesting their presence at the hospital. Now, as her children and her husband sat in the nearby chairs, Cloudy Quartz stood eye to eye with the doctor, dreading the answer. She screamed.
Screamed, Doctor?
Her eyes were flecked with hope as the doctor explained. Last night, the nurse on duty was changing Maud's bandages and IVs when, upon inserting the drip into her foreleg, your daughter began to scream in pain.
She felt? Are you saying she felt pain in her foreleg, Doctor?
That's exactly what I'm saying, Mrs. Pye. Tears began to form in the mayor's eyes as relief flooded through her. For the past 12 days, she had been wrestling with the fact her daughter may never have feeling in her limbs again. True pain was less than ideal, but it was far better than nothing.
That's wonderful, Doctor. Is she awake? Can we see her?
Yes, well, about that.
Doctor, we finally managed to sedate her, sir.
The voice of a nurse came from down the hall and was approaching quickly. She seemed out of breath, and her uniform had a long slash in it. Panting and out of breath, the young mayor reported in.
Sorry, it took so long.
Cloudy Quartz looked at her in concern.
Doctor, what's going on?
The doctor, who was examining the tear and subsequent cuts underneath, explained the situation, the look in his eyes almost haunting. It began an hour ago. While changing your daughter's bandages, she opened her eyes. They were surprisingly lucid, and then she asked the nurse a question.
She spoke, Doctor?
Yes, she asked the nurse if she wanted to meet her new friend.
New friend?
The doctor wiped his brow and fidgeted with his spectacles before responding. An imaginary one. One she had named Boulder.
Imaginary? Doctor, my daughter is not known for making things up. Whoever this Boulder is, it must be real to her. No kidding.
The nurse spoke up, injecting into the conversation.
When we told her we couldn't see this Boulder, she went quiet, but only for a moment. The next thing we knew, she went ballistic, attacking us and screaming in pain as she attempted to move her limbs. One of the nurses tried to sedate her and got too close to her muzzle. And well, at least my uniform isn't a permanent crimson red.
How is she, by the way?
It's not looking good, Doctor. Her foreleg looks like a timber wolf took a sizable chunk of flesh from it. We only just stopped the bleeding.
Cloudy Quartz's ears perked up, and her muzzle became slightly crooked in a half-assed attempt at a smile.
I'm sorry, nurse. There must be... I must have heard wrong. Did you say my daughter attacked? No, I must have heard wrong. That's right, ma'am. My daughter. Maybe there's been some mistake. I'm talking about... My daughter's name is Maud. Gray fur? That's right, ma'am.
Her expression hardened.
Young mare, my daughter would never... Where is she? Maud?
Every pony in the waiting room, working there or otherwise, stopped and stared at Maud's mom as she called out her daughter's name again and again.
Ma'am, please stop shouting. We'll take you to a room. I'm sorry, it's just shocking to hear that my daughter would...
The nurse's eyes softened and she spoke softly.
Ma'am, I understand. We need you to stay calm, though. We have a few high-strung patients as it is, and we don't need them riled up. Please, follow me. She's currently in room 178.
It didn't take long for the two to arrive at room 178. Upon opening the door, Maud was revealed sleeping peacefully. Cloudy Quartz saw no sign that her daughter could possibly have assaulted the nurse. That is until a moment later, Maud whispered a single word.
Boulder.
It was then her mother's blood ran cold as her daughter smiled in her sleep, revealing the crimson stain of fresh blood on her teeth. Imaginary. As she stood there, placing a clean dish on top of a nearby stack, Cloudy Quartz was lost in thought. A swift shiver went down her spine as the door creaked open once more.
Hey, Mom. Boulder and I are going to visit Pinky in Ponyville. I'm going to thank her for introducing us to her friends.
Imaginary. As the next dish, now scrubbed clean, was placed in the drying rack, Cloudy maintained her composure as she replied to her daughter.
All right. See you both when you get back.
As the door closed behind her, the matriarch overheard a cold, uncharacteristic laugh from her daughter, followed by her emotionless words.
It's a shame they couldn't see you. I agree, Boulder.
Imaginary. That's what they said. Taking the dish rag she had used to clean the dishes, she twisted it to wring it out. From the rag, poured a watery crimson as it was washed down the sink. Pausing for a moment, she stared at the dishes she had been washing, each having just the faintest tint of red across the face. She sighed and turned to the dinner table to finish cleaning up.
Such a mess.
Cloudy Quartz lifted the limp hoof of Rarity and slowly mopped up the pool of dark crimson the alabaster-furred unicorn lay face down in. She didn't respond to the touch. Not that she would, with the gash in her neck where a butter knife lay embedded.
Such a mess.
The unicorn's fur had taken on a demonic hue of rose-colored splotches, and next to her lay the limp form of the Pegasus known as Rainbow Dash. The cyan blue of her fur was now splattered with dark red speckles. Her head thrown back, her eyes now sported a pair of forks jammed halfway into their sockets. Imaginary. As Cloudy mopped up the carnage her daughter had left behind, she whispered softly,
If only they too had been given such an imagination, perhaps they too would have seen Boulder.